Hello, it's Mark again with hopefully a short video to say a few words about the expectations we have of you as foundation students, the expectations you can have of us, and the kind of support that's available from the foundation year team, but also from the wider university, and some advice really on how to be successful in your studies this year. So there's maybe nothing more important to me, at least in my role, than to have good communication on the foundation program. So uh, everything will work well if we all follow the same kind of rules and have the same practices when it comes to communication. So our primary form of communication is email. Please check your Queen Mary email account at least once a day. I mean, probably more than once a day. Because email is the primary channel of communication at any university in the UK, it's really important to do this. Set up your Queen Mary account on your phone as soon as you can, so that you just get into the good habit of checking emails. There is an understanding at UK universities that if the university or a member of university staff sends you an email, we consider that message to have been read. Okay, so if you're not checking your emails, or even because you can't, because you haven't set them up, set it up properly, or you're just not bothering to read them, you cannot use that as an excuse for missing an important piece of work, or misunderstanding, or not following instructions. As soon as a message from Queen Mary or Queen Mary staff goes to you, we consider that you have that information. It's kind of like a contract between us. So please bear that in mind. Take email communication really seriously. It might be something you've not used before, so please start using it now. And as soon as you can, use your Queen Mary email address. I've been communicating with you already via personal email addresses, but that will change. Come the end of the second week of term, I would expect everyone to be checking their Queen Mary emails every day. Please look out for you're going to get lots of emails every day, and of course some of them won't be so important. Some of them will be promoting activities or just letting you know about events that are related to the university. But anything that comes from any of your foundation year teachers, please make sure you prioritize reading it. And if the email asks you for a response, even if it's a response that just says, can you confirm you've read this, please respond within 24 hours. It's always good practice to respond straight away if you can. Like if you know that you're not going to be able to provide a full reply within, say, 24 hours, send what we call a holding email that says, thanks for your email. I am really busy with classes at the moment, but I will answer you fully by, and then you explain what time you'll be able to do that. That noise is an email coming in, so that's how important email is to us. I've got notifications to tell me when new emails come in. Okay, I think you already have used MySys with your application, but you'll need to work out how to use MySys over the course of the year, perhaps not so urgently now, and you'll be using QM Plus regularly. We, especially now that we're teaching online, I think QM Plus becomes even more important. We can see exactly what you do and what you don't do on QM Plus. So if we put activities online for you to complete and you don't do them, we can see that you're not engaging. And equally, if you are completing the tasks online and participating in forums and things like that, we can also see how good you are, and you'll be rewarded for that in time. it's really important to speak to us if you're having any kind of difficulties. So any problems you experience, we want to help you. We can only help you if we know about the problems that you're experiencing. So please do speak to us, email us. Um, I prefer you to email me about a personal issue. Please do not use WhatsApp for this purpose. But you also speak to your academic advisor and teaching staff about issues that are specific to their modules or their work. Important for me to point out that this year, because of online delivery, we'll be making a lot of use of Microsoft Teams. So you'll need to learn how to use Teams to send messages to one another and to set up video conferences. We'll do lots of work over the next few weeks that teach you how to do that. So it's really straightforward, and you'll get the hang of it quickly. The purpose of us using WhatsApp is for group communication. It's primarily for you to have a community together where you can freely speak to each other. And I encourage you to make your own WhatsApp groups for studying or particular subject classes as well. For now, you have a WhatsApp group with me so that we can have like very quick and easy communication. But that will only be for the first 3 or 4 weeks. After that, WhatsApp is just for students, and for communication with staff, you'll be expected to use emails and Microsoft Teams. You're also expected to participate in discussions and exchanges via QM Plus forums and quizzes and tools like Flipgrid, which my first communication with you was to send you a video via Flipgrid, and I'm happy that I've had some responses back. But that should become something that's just normal to you. Okay, we're studying online, so we don't have the advantage of just being able to bump into each other in the square and have chats informally. So a tool like Flipgrid is really useful for us to get a sense of who you are and hear your voices in a way that we can't otherwise. Okay. I think it's really important for me to point out that you're part of a university community now that is huge. You know, we're talking about tens of thousands of students, and within the university there are a wide number of departments and a large number of people working to support students in a range of different areas. It's not just me, it's not just the foundation year team. So actually there's a lot of subjects you might want to speak about, or issues you might want to speak about, where we are not the people that you go to. Okay, so we are here for your foundation education, and we want to do everything that we can to help you to become successful undergraduate students next year. And we can help you find the help you need with other issues, but we can't give that help directly. And we want you to get the expert advice and support in whatever it is that you need. So when you speak to us when you come to us with some questions, please don't expect us to be able to answer everything or do everything for you. Please don't demand that we do that, and please understand that if we tell you to ask someone else, then it's not because we're not taking responsibility. It's just because it's not our jobs. We need to focus our attention on teaching and on your education, and we've got other people who are much better placed to help you with other things. So that's why in this rather complicated diagram that I've made rather badly, I'm pointing out that if you've got a problem with accommodation, you contact the accommodation office, not us. If you need documents, you go to the Student Inquiry Centre. If you've got a question about a visa, you go to Advice and Counselling Services. It's actually illegal for us to give you advice on a visa if we are not the trained individuals on campus who are allowed to do that. Yeah. So nobody in the foundation team can give you advice on your visa. We're also probably not the best people to ask about money. If you've got a question about paying your fees, there's another email. If you've got a question about paying your fees, you go to the fees office or you contact the fees office. If you've got financial problems or you're looking for help with financial problems, you can again go to advice and counselling services. If you have issues relating to your studies, then you can always speak to other students, and you will have course representatives that we're going to elect in the first few weeks of the semester. So as a group of students, you can come together and speak to your course rep as a way of communicating with staff. We also put you in touch with foundation students from previous years, so that's a kind of network called peer support. So for issues with studying, you can go to other students that you're studying with now, you can go to your course rep, you can go to former students for peer support. You can just look at QM Plus, where there's lots of information. A lot of the questions that I get, the answers are already on QM Plus, and you'll notice that I sometimes get a bit tired of receiving those same questions when I know that you could just find the answers by yourself. Issues relating to studying, it's always good to speak to the most relevant teacher first. There might be a module convener who's kind of higher up than that particular teacher, and there's also me, the program convener, to speak to ultimately about issues relating to studying, and also kind of any other problems. So if you've got personal problems that are affecting your studies, then talk to us, talk to your academic advisor first, talk to teachers, talk to me about how those problems might be impacting your studies. But for advice in dealing with those for advice on dealing with those problems, then we've got some great expertise within the university through the advice and counselling service, which, even though we're delivering everything online, advice and counselling, there will be some people on campus, but they will be offering their full services online as well. I mean, anything that you can do in a one-to-one meeting in person, we can replicate through a one-to-one meetings online. Specific questions about progression to your degree programs in the future, this probably won't become particularly important to you until much later in the year, but Will Hutton is our progression coordinator. You'll get to know him well through personal development during the year. If I'm mentioning aspects of the program that you're not familiar with, like personal development, don't worry. Elsewhere in the orientation, you will learn more about these different strands of the program. Okay. Going back to going back to the topic of communication, but also maybe something I just referred to in terms of what might bother me about students asking me the same questions, or maybe not listening to the information I've already given them. A little question for you. Just do this in your head. Obviously, if we were face to face in a classroom, I'd give you time to discuss this and compare ideas or give me some suggestions. Here's a multiple choice question for you. Should you, when you communicate with me, when you write to me, when you see me and speak to me, should you address me as Mr. Mark? Should you address me as Dr. Holloway? Should you call me Professor Mark Holloway? Should you call me Sir? Or should you call me Mark? I'll give you a second. You can pause if you like and have a think about that. If you've managed to find a room where there are other students where you can pause the video and discuss this, then do that. I'm just going to give you a few seconds to think about your answer to that question. so in this country, there's no such thing as Mr. Mark. Like it almost sounds quite comical to call someone Mr. or Mrs. and then their first name. We only use Mr. Or Mrs. with a surname. So maybe I'm Mr. Holloway, but I don't want you to call me Mr. Holloway. And please don't call me Mr. Mark. I'm not actually a doctor, but even if I was, I wouldn't ask you to call me Dr. Holloway. I'm not a professor either, but again, you're going to meet doctors and professors at the university, and they don't ask you to call them doctor or professor. I'm certainly not sir. Um, I'm not a knight, so there's no sir at the beginning of my name. And I think really importantly, you're not at school anymore. Okay, you're university students now. We need to make a transition from school to university. The first step is maybe to realize that a university community is quite different to school communities in terms of the way we speak to one another. We speak to one another with respect, but also with a degree of informality that might be surprising to some of you. So, yeah, you address me as Mark, not Sir or Mr. anything. And communicate with your other teachers as well by addressing them by their first name. Please, if you're ever going to miss a class, please email your teachers to let them know. If you're like really sick and you don't have the time or the ability to let someone know before a class that you're going to miss it, then please make sure you email them, preferably within a day of missing that class, to apologise and to explain why you missed the class. Okay. Your health and welfare is really important to us. I know a lot of you will be living with family this year, so you're probably in very good hands. If you're living on campus or you're living alone in London, then we also take some responsibility for your health and welfare. I'll be referring to the student handbook a lot over the next few weeks. The student handbook has a section on health and welfare. A really important piece of advice we give you, well, it's a requirement rather than a piece of advice. If you are living on campus or you've moved to London to study with us, you need to register with a doctor. You need to register with a general practitioner. The way that the health service works in the UK is that first you see a doctor, and then if you need any medicine, the doctor can prescribe it. And if you need any specialist attention, the doctor refers you to a specialist. You can't directly go to a specialist, even if you know what your problem is. So you need to register with a doctor, not only for your own sake, but also because if there are any issues health issues that disrupt your studies, you will need to get letters from doctors to confirm what the problem is, so that we can support you. We can give you opportunities to take tests when you're well, for example, or to submit a piece of work late. Ideally, that will never happen. But if it happens that you fall really sick on the day of an exam and you miss an exam, the default is actually that you fail that exam until you provide some evidence that you were genuinely sick, and only then can you have another chance organised to take that test. On the foundation year, you'll have an academic advisor who will also be your ELSS tutor, and you'll have regular tutorials with them. Please make sure you attend those tutorials, which will largely be online. They will always be asking you about your health and welfare, and please appreciate that that's a really important part of our job. We want you to be healthy and we want you to be happy. And we also know that not being healthy, not being happy, can have a really negative impact on any attempts you make to study, and it can have an impact on your progress. And what we want to do is recognise any problems that may impact your studies before they do. Sometimes we don't learn about personal problems or health issues until after a student has fallen behind with work, and then it can be too late to do much to do enough to help. So please do communicate with us and attend your tutorial so that we know what support you need, but also just to know that you're okay is important to us. I just want to quote something from the handbook that I've been referring to on respect and tolerance at Queen Mary. This is true for you on the foundation year and throughout the rest of your degree program. If you go to another university, you'll find it's pretty much the same elsewhere. It's really important for us that we ensure that our community at each of our campuses is free from all forms of prejudice, discrimination, harassment, and bullying. If you I very much hope and trust that you will not experience any of these things while a student at Queen Mary, but if you experience them yourself, or you know of someone who is experiencing any form of prejudice or discrimination, any form of harassment, any form of bullying, please speak to us about it, because we have zero tolerance for this at Queen Mary. It's part of my job as a program convener to deal with any such issues, and I've been lucky, but maybe it's predictable given where we are and who we are, that I haven't had major cases like this to deal with in my time at Queen Mary. We are typically a friendly and tolerant group of students coming from all over the world, with a common purpose of learning. So I'm sure there's room in our community for all. Just say a little bit about engagement. Here's a photo of 3 very engaged students. One of them isn't looking at the camera, but if you look behind them, they are in the Houses of Parliament, engaging with a trip that we've arranged. We'll still be trying to arrange trips around London for those of you who are on campus this year, but we'll also try to provide online experiences that kind of broaden your horizons as well. So, I mean, I think partly engagement is our responsibility because we have to try to make our teaching and our course engaging for you, but we need your participation in that as well. It's important to note that all live classes are compulsory, and we look at your engagement with the course really seriously. And one sign of your engagement is that you're attending classes. If you're absent, you develop poor attendance, and we don't have any kind of excuse or any reasonable excuse why you're missing classes, then that's not something we can tolerate, and we will talk to you about how we can address it. Ultimately, it can lead to deregistration. Usually there's at least one student per year who has to be deregistered from the foundation year because they're just not engaging. For the majority of you though, I think you'll all be thinking about how can I do well on this program, and how you can do well is to participate, be active, prepare for classes, do your best to work with others. We often ask you to work with others, and we see it as you should see it as your responsibility to try to get on well with other people and work well with them. Okay. Finally, some advice on how to make a good impression on me and the rest of the team. And the advice I'm giving you here on making a good impression is also advice that will last through your foundation year in terms of how can you make a success of your studies. So, to make a good impression, please read all emails and instructions carefully. Please reply to messages when you're asked to. Please don't be too formal. Don't call me sir, but also don't be over friendly. Don't look for shortcuts or for the easy option. It never works. A student who comes looking for shortcuts will not find success. Okay, when you're choosing your subject, when you're choosing your elective modules, and you speak to us about our advice, please, I know at least one person will say, what's the easiest subject? I don't want to hear that, because that's the worst thing I could possibly hear. You're not here to look for the easiest route. You're here to look for the one that is going to be most interesting to you, which might be challenging, it might be difficult. Challenging is good. Education is a privilege. If you weren't studying now, think about what else you might have to be doing. This is not military service. Try, please, when you have questions, I'm really happy for you to ask questions, but please try to find answers to questions yourself before asking, because nothing makes a bad impression like asking someone a question when they have already given you the answer to it. Okay, so I'm recording this on Thursday the 10th of September. On the 7th of September, I made a video in which I explained a few things about orientation, and I said, don't ask me about your timetable. You'll choose your modules first, and then you'll get your timetable. Okay, so I sent that on the 7th of September. Within that video, there were QR codes so that you could join a WhatsApp group. Okay, and I asked you to use WhatsApp for group conversations, not for questions about like anything personal to you. And yet, I've already had several messages directly through WhatsApp this week asking me things like, oh, I haven't got my timetable yet. Where's my timetable? So that's the kind of thing that when I get messages like that, sorry, but I tend to think, that student might cause us a bit of trouble. That's going to be a difficult student, because that's someone who they've gone to the video because they've got the QR code, but they haven't watched it, and they've got a question and it's answered in the video, but they're going to ask it anyway. Okay, so the answers to many of your questions will already be out there. Try to find them before you ask. Okay? If you can't find them, ask, but do look first. And finally, some P's, 4 P's. If you can do all of these things, you will do well. So get on top of time management. Be punctual. Attend. Be present. Okay. Do anything we ask you to read or watch before a class each week. Do the work. Be prepared. And also be patient. Realize that some things will be difficult at first. Some things will be confusing at first. It might take a few weeks for you to settle into routines of learning online. It's okay. That's fine. This is, I said in my welcome talk, this is a transition. You're moving from the end of school to the start of university, and it's not going to happen. You're not going to adapt in just a matter of seconds. It's going to take time, and you need to be patient. You're going to do some work, and you might be surprised that you don't get the grades that you were expecting. You might get feedback that's actually quite negative that you're not expecting. Be patient with that. Be open-minded to it. Listen to the feedback we give you. Try to respond positively to any feedback. And that's how you're going to learn. That's how you're going to make progress. And that's how you're going to be successful. So I've put that on a slide that says make a good impression, but really being punctual, present, prepared and patient will see you through the whole year. Okay, I've got a little task for you to complete now on QM+, so please do that, and thank you very much for your attention.